Hey y'all, it's me again. I'm gonna continue reading from my book, Secret Lives of the First Ladies. Okay, let's go! Slugger. Grace was athletic all her life. She took long, vigorous walks along almost every day. Had one hell of a throwing arm and took to swimming and canoeing with ease. While fishing in the Black Hills with Calvin, the First Lady was reported by the press as having a better technique than her husband. She caught a trout on her first try. Chief among her sporting passions, however, was baseball. She taught her sons how to play when they were children and developed a lifelong love for the game. The Red Sox were her team, and sometimes they even let her sit in the dugout during games. Once, during the early 50s, Grace wasn't able to make her usual appearance at the World Series because of health problems. The president of the American League sent her flowers. Aww, that's so nice and cute. Baby? What baby? For a reason that must be apparent by now, President Coolidge was the silent cow by the American public. Grace, for all her popularity, was just as tight-lipped, not only about her husband's opinions, as well as her own, but also about their private lives. The Coolidge's uncommunicativeness could sometimes have bizarre consequences. In 1925, rumors began circulating that the First Lady was pregnant. Nothing could have been further from the truth. But while most first couples would have taken the time to issue press statements refuting the notion, Mr. and Mrs. Coolidge remained quiet. The gossip continued, and soon the White House was inundated with diapers and baby toys from an adoring and mistaken public. The packages kept arriving for roughly another 9 months, by which time it was obvious that no presidential papoose was on the way. Like, no shit, Sherlock. Ugh. Crying foul. In her later years, Grace Coolidge was asked by a reporter about the nature of her early romance with Calvin. In a rare moment of candor, she replied, "Have you ever met my husband?" Solomon and withholding, Calvin Coolidge may have been the last of the lukewarm lovers. By his biographer Carol Ferranza, I think that's how you say his middle name, Anthony reminds us he had a sense of humor and wasn't above being teased about. He and Grace once visited a chicken farm in Maryland, where the First Lady witnessed the rooster copulating with a hen. Upon asking the farmer if the rooster did that often, Grace was informed that he did it several times. "Tell that to the president," she responded, and the farmer did just that. "Did it say a hen?" was Calvin's like. "No, Mr. President," said the red-faced farmer. "Tell that to Mrs. Coolidge," said the president. Oh my effing Lord. Long legs and Black Hills. Grace's Secret Service escort during most of her time as First Lady was young and handsome and married fellow named Jim Haley. He followed her wherever she went, and it became a common sight to see the agent in Washington trying to keep up with the athletic First Lady on her regular walks. When people began gossiping that the dashing Haley's connection to Grace was more than just professional, the president reacted with his usual irritation. But things came to a head in the summer of 1927 when the Coolidges and company repaired to the Black Hills of South Dakota for a presidential vacation. One morning, Grace told Calvin that she was heading out for a hike into the woods with her escort Haley. That wouldn't take them more than an hour. It took 5 hours. By the time the two breathless hikers returned, the president was fit to be tied, having spent all morning worrying about her safety. He gave Grace a stern talking to in private, then decided to have Haley transferred from his post escorting the First Lady. The incident had all the makings of a tabloid nightmare, and the press acted predictably, inferring that a judge president had suspected the worst and gone after the young stud who spent way too much time in the wilds of South Dakota with his wife. Though Calvin's chief concern during Grace's attempt that she was missing or wounded, his dismissal of Haley only fanned the flames of public speculation. We'll certainly never know for sure what happened out there in the Black Hills, but Grace for once thought that Haley's transfer was unjust. I mean, like, I don't know, I wasn't there, so I don't really know what happened in the Black Hills. Was she cheating? Was she not cheating? I'll never know. And the reason why I'm yawning so much is because, one, I got less sleep, and two, my friend, if you know what I mean, is visiting, and has been visiting since Monday? Tuesday? Yes, it's Tuesday. So yeah. Pioneer. Grace Clues racked up a few intriguing firsts as a First Lady. She was the first to bring Iridium to the White House, which she listened to constantly. The first to receive an honorary doctorate from Boston University. And the first to appear in a talkie. After leaving the White House, she appeared in a film intended to drum up contributions to the Christmas seals for victims of tuberculosis. Interestingly, she was also the first lady to give cigarette smoking a try, though she only indulged in private. Chapter 27. Lou Henry Hoover. March 29th, 1874 through January 7th, 1944. Married February 10th, 1899. Presidential husband, Herbert Hoover. Children, Herbert Clark Jr. and Alan Henry. First Lady, 1929 through 1933. Astrological sign, Aries. Religion, Episcopalian, then Quaker. Soundbite, I enjoy campaigning because my husband makes all the speeches and I receive the roses. I mean, like, who wouldn't? During the Boxer Rebellion, Lou Hoover transported supplies to the front lines via bicycle. The work was so dangerous, her obituary once appeared in a Peking newspaper. Wow. Without a doubt, Lou Hoover was the worldliest first lady in American history. A globe-trotting scholar who loved roughing it out in the outdoors almost as much as she loved bettering the lot of her fellow human beings. She was a paragon of empowered womanhood. Everyone had just cause to expect great things of her and her equally gifted husband, Herbert Hoover. And great things would doubtless have happened had the Hoovers been fortunate enough to be in power at an ordinary time in the nation's history. Instead, they found themselves confronting the greatest American crisis since the Civil War. A crisis too daunting and persuasive for even a remarkable woman like Lou Hoover to overcome. Lou Henry was a native Iowan whose family moved to California when she was 11 years old. Her wealthy father, Charles Delano Henry, was an avid outdoorsman who passed his love of campaigning, hunting, and fishing on to his two daughters. After graduating from high school, Lou studied to be a teacher, but observing the natural world remained her greatest passion, and she went to Stanford to study geology. Women simply didn't go into rocks back then. Lou found herself the only woman in her classes, but of all the men who surrounded her, one stood out. Fellow geology student Herbert Hoover had also come to California from Iowa and shared Lou's love of the wilderness. Bert couldn't believe his luck. Who'd have thought he would find a tall, beautiful, intellectually dynamic woman who loved fingering shale and wielding a pick as much as he did? After agreeing to an informal engagement, Bert took off to pursue his mining career in Australia, while Lou finished up her studies at Stanford. While in Australia, Bert was hired by a Chinese engineering and mining company. It was the opportunity of a lifetime, and he excited why Lou and Stanford to officially become his bride and accompany to the Celestial Empire. He then returned to California, where the two were married by a Spanish priest. They couldn't find a Quaker to do the job, and Mr. and Mrs. Hoover sailed for Asia. Once in Tyneston, I think that's how you say, the Hoovers were in their element. It wasn't just that they were prospecting and mining, doing the sort of thing that fascinated them for lots of money. They were also ensconced and a deliciously exotic culture, something that set both of their studious minds on fire. Lou in particular drank it all in. She always had a knack for languages and began to learn Chinese on a long journey by boat from California. Now she began to take lessons as often as possible, developing a fluency in a tongue that was extremely rare among Westerners. She accompanied her husband on long journeys into the surrounding hills, often by mule, braving bandits and extreme weather, and helped Bert gather and translate Chinese mining laws for codification. The challenges were many: physical, intellectual, and cultural, and Lou savored every minute of it. Unfortunately, their Asian adventure was dramatically cut short by the Boxer Rebellion, in which throngs of anti-foreign Chinese took up arms against Western settlements like the one in Tyston. The Hoovers were lucky to escape with their lives, but the taste for travel remained. From their new home in London, they continued to rack up the miles in business jaunt that took them around the world. Japan, Burma, Australia, Ceylon, I think that's how you say it, Russia. The births of sons in 1903 and 1907 hardly slowed them down. Indeed, Herbert Jr. circumnavigated the globe at an astounding 2 times before he was a year old. The Who's acclimated themselves to the native situation wherever they went and earned a reputation for mining developments that were as conscious of workers' needs as they were efficient and lucrative. They even found time to translate an obscure text from the 1500s, Agricola's De Metallica, an arduous translation and lab work that took 5 years. World War I changed everything in 1914. Having amassed an enormous fortune, Bert started spending much of it to help beleaguered Americans get the heck out of Europe that was blowing itself to bits. He continued Herculean and selfless tasks in Belgium, where he devoted himself to helping countless war refugees. Lou, who had been her husband's full partner in the extensive business ventures, now played just as large role in his relief efforts. She worked in London on behalf of British women workers and went back to the States to whip up American dollars for war relief. When the United States entered the conflict in 1917, the Hoovers just kept going. Bert made the nation's food administrator, charged with organizing conservation for the war effort, while Lou became his poster girl, employing her fellow women to run a lean household and to plant war gardens to grow their own produce. The Hoovers had become the dynamic duo of public activism, a tireless couple of civic-minded eggheads who seemed to scream, "Engage! Get involved!" wherever they went, and they had gotten too good at their vocation to let the conclusion of the war bring it to an end. Bert went back across the ocean with President Wilson to help patch up Europe, and Lou, while overseeing the construction of their Stanford Dream House in California, also helped her husband's continuing relief efforts. By 1921, Bert's extraordinary organizational skills had endeared him to virtually everyone in power, and President Warren Harding made him Commerce Secretary. Now Lou was a cabinet wife, and she was determined not to squander the opportunity. She was a liberated woman with one hell of a head on her shoulders, a wife who knew nothing but equality and partnership in her marriage, and who envisioned a nation of women who, were like her. During the war, she had volunteered as the leader of a Girl Scout troop. I was in Girl Scouts. I went from the beginning of brownies all the way to Girl Scouts, and I got my rainbow badge. I think I still have my Girl Scout thingy, the thing that goes over one shoulder. I forgot what it's called. I think I got my Girl Scout sash. That's what it's called. Somewhere around this house. Or in the garage, I think. Yeah, somewhere in the garage, I think. Or hopefully it wasn't stolen. Oh yeah, my garage got stolen into like 3, 4, 5 years ago, something like that. and everything was stolen. I think my Girl Scout sash was also stolen. I don't know. I'll look and try to find it. But yeah, I was in Girl Scouts. Yay! Beginning connection to the Girl Scouts that would endure until her death. The organization was seen by Lou as the ideal training camp for young women who could become fully vested, informed members of a voting populace. The Girl Scouts, however, were only the beginning. Lou acted on her love of physical activity by becoming the only woman officer in the National Amateur Athletic Federation, and in 1923 sponsored the creation of its women's division. She spoke at every opportunity as a need for women to become more involved in politics and in the workplace. Dynamic, confident, composed, and eloquent, she became an inspiration to her gender. So who wouldn't want to send these folks to the White House? The Wizards had gotten rich through hard work and sheer brain power, spent a lot of their earnings on unimpeachable causes, and were as interesting and educated as they were admirable. Bert's presidential victory in 1928 seemed like the beginning of big things. Not least because his brilliant and benevolent man was bringing a truly admirable woman with him into the administration. Lou immediately began putting her own indelible stamp on the office of First Lady, doing away with a long-time custom she considered superfluous, calling on a long list of other political households to leave a card in person or to visit briefly. Entertaining, on the other hand, became a Hoover hallmark, and absolutely nothing was considered too extravagant. Lou insisted on the finest food for her guests, of which there were plenty. The president's wife almost never dined alone, keeping the White House servants and kitchen staff on their toes every day. The Hoovers had class, to be sure, and the First Lady played the part, dressing in expensive gowns that were tastefully understated in refurbished parts of the White House, with the artifacts acquired during a life of travel. But class didn't count for much after the stock market crash of October 1929. The nation soon found itself sunk in a Great Depression, with unemployment rising at a dizzying rate and communities of indigent gathering on the outskirts of every city. Lou was devastated by the calamity and drew on her old sense of responsibility to do things. She issued a constant stream of radio messages and press releases imploring Americans to help each other and not lose confidence or hope. She began complimenting her chic wardrobe with dresses made from homegrown cotton to promote American agriculture and industry. And most remarkably, she answered nearly every piece of mail that was sent to her by ordinary people across the country who were in need of help, writing checks both large and small to individuals for whom she thought it was possible to make a difference. The president knew virtually nothing about his wife's extraordinarily ambitious charity campaign, and little wonder. He had his own problems. The man who'd been able to make such a huge impact on countless people's lives now found himself helpless to stem the tightened national disintegration. His obsession and frustration over the issue drove Lou to create a refuge for them in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia, an idyllic collection of cabins dubbed Camp Rapidan. I think how you say it. There, the president and first lady were able to commune with the natural world they continued to adore, while the rest of the country slid slowly down the drain. Few Americans knew about the Hoovers' extensive charitable efforts during the Depression because they insisted on making them a private affair, and while Bert and Lou scored A in the individual good works department, they flunked the official course altogether, failing to come up with a style of leadership or legislative agenda that was equal to the enormous task before them. The result was sad and predictable. Americans got sick to death of the Hoovers. In 1932, they lost the White House to a couple of radicals named Roosevelt, whose ambitious ideas, so Bert and Lou believed, would ruin the country. Eventually proved the Hoovers wrong. Yeah, we like TR better. Actually, no. Not TR. This would be TR's cousin, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And Franklin Roosevelt was the only president who became president 4 times for 4 terms. 4 terms. That's how well liked he was. I know Hoovers were like, yeah, he's not gonna get past 1. Add 3 more to that, dude. 4 times. Yeah. Nevertheless, they were now afraid to do things at which they actually excelled. Lou threw herself into campus life at Stanford, holding court with her husband at their beautifully modern new spread in Palo Alto. In 1935, Lou was rewarded for continuing efforts on behalf of the Girl Scouts by being elected president of the National Council. When World War II broke out in Europe, Bert stood up once again on behalf of the victimized by setting up shop in New York to organize relief for refugees. Lou accompanied him, and true to form, rose to the occasion in her own way, leading an effort on behalf of the Salvation Army to provide clothes for 1 million European refugees. Ultimately, demands like this one made her a casualty of war. In January 1944, she died of a heart attack in New York. Her reputation still tainted somewhat by her husband's disastrously ineffective term in office. But to many American women, the cosmopolitan Lou Hoover would be missed. Some 200 Girl Scouts attended her funeral. Holy crap. Please rate, comment, and subscribe down below. And if you're on YouTube, please ring that bell notification so you can know when to upload. And if you're on TikTok, please subscribe. Please follow and like my videos. Okay? And please pay for something on either my eBay and or Mercari. Okay? And what else? Oh yeah, and if I get to at least 50 subscribers on YouTube and 50 followers on TikTok, I'll do something special. I'm not gonna tell you because it's gonna be a surprise, okay? But please subscribe if you're on YouTube and follow if you're on TikTok so that you can say what that special surprise is. Because it's gonna be really special. Okay, bye.